The Atlanta Vigilante Wars, Case 004, Department of Search History. Script by Joseph and Marisha Cautilli. Based on a short story novella by Joseph Cautilli, Marisha Cautilli, and Peter Kim. Director and producer, Roma Gray. Executive producer credits, Marisha and Joseph Cautilli. Narrated by Joshua Banks and Shauna Lee Carton. Theodore Tedeschi's mugshot is so large that Sergeant Daria Tserendorj thinks she can smell the man's cheap aftershave and department store sweater vest. The transparent display fills the quadcopter's entire front windshield, giving Tserendorj a full-profile photo rendered in 8K resolution. Dimple face and tame appearance convince Daria this isn't a thug. To her, he seems so normal. Normal in a grade school history teacher kind of way, which makes it even more disturbing to see him flagged for search history violations. Or maybe not. The numbers trended down lately, but she has a suspicion that many people were just finding ways to beat the system. She longs for Rancor's new tracking update to help get society back on track. Her eyes scan the computer-generated scroll of violations. One thing she has learned in her 2 years on the force is most search history violators appear normal on the outside. Early on, she learns not to judge outer appearances. Only the algorithm truly knows everyone's dark secrets. What they search for when they think nobody's looking. Tserendorj trusts the algo. She scolds herself. Maybe this is a bit anthropomorphic. Algorithms don't know. They detect patterns without awareness. Still, placing agency in them, setting them as heroes against the dark, helps her to understand the mission and even comprehend its importance. Turbulence rattles the interior of the cockpit, causing the image to briefly distort. As the Department of Search History, or DOSH, agent's quadcopter soars over the tops of buildings. Daria evaluates the list of offenses deemed against the community standards of Seoul. The list is composed of every deviance in the book. Tedeschi's search history reads like the mind of a sociopath. Sure, there are the typical minor infractions such as searching for ex-girlfriends, the best way to tell off your boss, or how to hide cryptocurrency from the government. Those are mildly defendable. But Tedeschi displays a voracious appetite for the worst types of content. He shares a strong interest in articles on subjects like building bombs, taking back the streets by killing drug dealers, getting away with murder, and even searching pages of banned books. She briefly thinks of the pain that the U.S. government could have saved its people had they listened to the tech companies and adopted more stringent search history laws. The software exists to keep the population safe and get critical behavioral health care to those with suicidal tendencies in need of help. Instead, they played it fast and loose, protecting rights.
Yeah, protecting the rights of criminals and the insane.
Now the U.S. has what people call a vigilante war, as people take matters into their own hands to get the scum off the streets. Back here in Seoul, the truth became clear early. The government needed to protect the people, as Rancor's ads say, against the scum. Indeed, the programs have led to drastic reductions in violent crimes like rape and murder. Even suicides are at their lowest levels in 40 years. While not every offense led to jail or even a fine, some of the more egregious ones led to termination. So it was with this case.
Terminate. It appears just.
Getting flagged for even one of those searches could get him a lifetime ban. But all of them? The order is the highest possible charge. Terminate on sight. Daria isn't fazed by the kill order. It is core to the job. Good citizens count on her to do her duty, and frankly, she likes being a grand protector. Getting reprobates off the street serves as a source of pride for her. If these ideas and desires really bounce around his head, then he deserves exactly what is coming to him.
God only knows what this deviant is capable of, if left to his own devices.
Her mind flashes back to a degenerate she's heard about several years before, who the system reached too late. The pervert abused 20 prepubescent children, which a brief review of his search history would have revealed. And then, of course, there was the dirty bomb incident nearly a decade prior, where the man searched how to get uranium rods online and discovered they could be found in industrial microwaves. How many lives could have been saved from the resulting cancers? Indeed, such events are why Rancor and other companies invested in the development of search technologies. The algorithms are honed to be accurate and predictive. Besides, she isn't the one to question orders. Reaching into her holster, she draws her weapon and stares down its barrel. Twisting it around, its blue metal reflects in the display lights. Daria yanks the slide back of her standard issue, and the shiny brass of a 9mm round winks back at her. She blows off the bullet for luck. Wind buffets the glass as they soar forward. The rotors beat loudly. Daria reaches down and flips on her internet playlist. Pussy Riot's Police State sing out. A surge of strength rises in her. Daria scans the flight management control system. As the blinking little red dot on the copter's heads-up display scurries closer to the destination, Daria swipes a hand, and the digital display vanishes, revealing the majesty of the mega-city Seoul. Huge concrete block apartment complexes remind her of Soviet-era housing. These brutalist designs allowed for rapid movement of people from the coast post's sea-level rise. Interspersed areas of tiny shanties where the poor huddle in the streets, peppered with huge glass corporate towers, which rise into the stratosphere. Their size dwarfs the old Merdeka 118 building. Their glass shifts color during the day to highlight the buildings and transpose their beauty in contrast to the squalor of the poor sections. The net effect from a distance, the towering skyscrapers appear like mountains, and the squalor areas like grassland valleys of dirt. As their quadcopter soars over the dense stacks of apartment complexes, its gentle beat soothing her soul, she absorbs the density as tight as a concrete and steel Rubik's Cube. Concern enters her mind, and she thinks,
How can people eke out a living here? How can I?
A twinge of anxiety resurfaces in her stomach. It tightens and then grumbles. The pay from Dosh isn't much, and she debates moonlighting with a private security firm. Maybe something at Ryun Blue, that Jones Guys Corporation growing out of Atlanta. It has recently built a towering field office in Seoul. Word on the street is Jones would sign a major affiliation contract with Abe Koch Industries, and together, the two would open a plant to build some sort of aerospace engine. They would need security personnel, but is she the right person to climb the corporate ladder? Inside, she has felt the satisfaction from the job comes from knowing she made the community safer. At the end of the day, no matter how horrible the task, she could rest peacefully knowing she worked for her country. The right people to make life safe for her community, but the money. She scolds herself.
Perhaps I'm overthinking it all.
Friends told her that overthinking was one of her problems. Perhaps all she needs is a great broker who uses one of those market-analyzing AI machines like Dog Whistle. Man and machine could team up and get her tons of money. The woman screamed in her head.
Focus, Daria!
In a few minutes, they'd arrive at the last known residence of Theodore Todesky and terminate him. She tries to steady the thoughts in her mind.
Mind, like water.
It is a stupid phrase she picked up from one of the older members of the force to remind herself of the stillness while hunting a perp. He might have heard it on some mental health app. Daria sucks in a deep breath. Her knee wildly bounces as she licks her dry lips. She hates these outward signs of anxiety. It leaves her worried that others on the force would see her as weak. The spotlight would be less intense for her if she were a man, but a woman always sees more scrutiny on such matters. At least, it isn't the old days when women were thought to bring bad luck to a ship and increase its chances of sinking. Still, a mistake could spell disaster. One screw-up could get them all killed. With nothing to do about it, she lets out a sigh. She glances at her partner, Sergeant Chase Reddup, and tries hard to suppress a smile. He is, remarkably, still sound asleep in the passenger seat of their two-person cockpit. Drool forms at the corners of his lips. A travel brochure for Koh Lanta, Thailand, lays over his face. It is a long-proclaimed dream vacation, although in their 2 years together, they've never actually gone there. But that is Chase. Talk's a big game, but when it comes to doing, well, let's say Daria stopped expecting things a long time ago. Inspired, Daria marvels at her boyfriend. How he could sleep just moments before terminating a violator is beyond her. It is not about guilt. Neither of them are prone to such feelings, as they are sound in the justness of their action. No, this is more about the 1.5 million things that could go wrong during a termination. She studies him. His cheekbones are overly high, and it gives him a masculine, rugged look. He is handsome. Beauty became cheap, or at least highly affordable, for at least a decade, especially with the wave or skin regeneration techniques, which applied stem cells and augmented growth hormone levels to give the appearance of youth. She had herself engaged in the process of applying a mix of stem cells plus topical and systemic estrogen therapy to increase her skin collagen content and maintain skin thickness. None of that seemed to sway her man. It feels good for her to see a man not afraid to scoff at it and avoid an overly sculpted appearance. Daria thinks,
Yeah, he could have been a winner.
Daria wants to kiss him. Her swallow is audible. Sure, he has his moods and mastered pig-headedness, but he is great at his job. He is sweet, tender, honest, bold, and kind. Briefly, Daria recalls their first date. He took her to an underwater restaurant. He was so gentle and even a bit shy. It struck her as the kind of life she wanted to lead. They made love that night. The relationship proved easy to maintain because he was serious and showed her commitment. What she likes most about him is they talk through even the hard stuff. Even when she did not like something he did or vice versa, they managed to find a way to work through it. She shares things with him she could express with no one else. It allows her to feel safe, exploring her playful and even sometimes aggressive side. As they say, their relationship has legs, but his messy, unshampooed hair smacks her back to the other side. He just doesn't care about convention or the subtleties that lead one to get advancements in society. She couldn't believe how their relationship had lasted this long. She wondered if she was just settling when someone much better was out there. Of course, her father had told her there would always be someone better fitting in some area or another. At some point, a person has to just decide this is the right person and commit, and then work through the hard times as they arise. It is the commitment to the relationship which worries her the most about him and even herself. At what point has the relationship deadened? How could they have gotten so disconnected? Maybe it is just the nature of the job to stifle the soul. Or maybe that is the destination of all relationships. Partly to blame, Daria realizes she isn't a model girlfriend. The term submissive isn't in her dictionary, and date night, to her, involves scaling rock walls rather than sitting by a candlelit dinner. She wonders silently if Chase would be better off with a more conventional woman. Deeply devoted to her career, Daria knows.
If I am forced to choose between one or the other, my career will win, without a second thought.
Hell, she misses more dinners than she's made with him for work in the last few months. She ponders.
Is the writing for separation dancing on the wall? Time has a way of creeping up. I hate to wreck both our lives because this is too damn comfortable.
The onboard navigation's AI voice interrupts the silence. Approaching destination. Daria coos. The screen flashes from green to red. Daria blinks, then shakes out whatever this internal crisis she suffers. Her fingers tap on the system's panel. The rule is duty first. The other stuff can wait. Briefly, the woman's mind wonders if being guided by such a philosophy is part of the problem.
Some point. You need to get practical, Daria. Life is passing you by and your plan is way off base. Keep this up, and you will wind up like some of the old fuddy-duddies in the department, with no life to go home to, and crying away free time in a bar, slobbering over beer.
She adjusts the straps of her exosuit. The armorer straps on tight, and as a result, they always pinch her crotch. Chase once told her, better uncomfortable than dead. The fact it pinched her right over a nano tattoo she got after leaving the academy often causes her to question her snap life choices. Lowering the music, Daria checks the charge of the hip-mounted battery pack. 98%.
It should be enough. It has to be.
Daria thwacks her boyfriend on the shoulder with sufficient force to wake him and watches as Chase sits upright, barely bothered. At first, he appears disoriented. Then, he emits a small grunt and reaches for his stem vape in his pocket and takes a puff. The fumes both jolt his heart and wire his senses for action.
How can you sleep through this stuff?
Dying twice, and all that seeing the light shit really messed with me. The first time was long before Daria knew him, but the second, she stood by his side.
The light thing isn't heaven. It is just retinal bleaching as the eyes stop moving.
Still, I think my tiredness has more to do with variations of the energy loss. You know, permanent neurological and cardiac effects. Or maybe it's just how meaningless it all seems to me since... Still, the last hit, you know, the heart. Daria shudders at the situation. Daria flashes back. After the perp engaged in an illegal search online about killing his boss, they went to his place, or residence. They found the perp naked, drunk, and violently beating his girlfriend. He struck her with a whiskey bottle, which broke on her skull. He dropped it and redoubled his attack. As he slapped her with his left hand, they rushed in to drag the perp off. He spun, semi-automatic pistol in a hand at close range. She still has nightmares about the perp's gun striking Chase. They thought that his exoskeleton would have stopped it, but the guy was using armor-piercing shells and close-ups. It took 15 surgeries and complex tissue engineering to redesign the damaged heart area. Had their robotic surgeon not been on the site with them to start an IV with stem cells and prolotherapy, Chase might be a corpse. Maybe that was when he withdrew, or she did, choosing to throw herself into her work rather than dealing with the idea. The job was dangerous, and A perp could kill them at any moment.
Are you still getting the platelet-rich plasma injections?
Yeah, helps with the pain. Feels like the combination of that and the human growth hormone are making my body heal. They placed the copter on auto hover and leapt out. The two scurried down the streets and between piles of car caravans. The autos are covered in graffiti, and the streets themselves are marred with litter. The shop at the corner is boarded up. The sign over the top of it suggests free blood testing for viruses. Several of the overhanging street lamps are broken, causing the street to be intermittently dark. For all its faults, the neighborhood possesses a warm feeling. In moments, they arrive outside the apartment building of one Theodore Todesky, once for 9 counts of delinquent searches. The general fear is he plans to go rogue and become a vigilante any day or worse, steeple searching for the stuff going on in Atlanta. Daria ponders.
It's like a cancer. Damn Americans. Spitting all this vile and their press. Placing it online for decent people to find. Crap twists minds.
You're right, no morality. It is a key card building with multiple balconies. Daria draws her police warrant card. She waves and an aquamarine glow of no-knock appears. She swipes. The red light shifts to blue as the front door grants access. Briefly, Daria recalls the offense list and how the shit spreads. The egregious search terms echo in her head like,
Killin' those. Killin' your community. Why the vigilante wars are occurring.
She switches from lingering on the first offense for too long.
How to poison your boss. Why are the poor so lazy? Are headshots the best in taking out dealers?
Several other prohibited search terms that he conducted on the internet. They serve as her motivation to get the job done. She never liked the killing part of her job. It stuck with her, but she always reconciled it with the idea that it was just. Her killing was to protect people. Still, sometimes at night the faces haunted her. Search violators, Daria reminds herself, could be anybody, and the vigilantes are proving dangerous not just to the dealers, but to the overall community caught in the crossfire. The two jostle into the elevator, weapons drawn. Soft jazz plays as they rise, and then the doors slide open. As the pair of officers step out onto the 101st floor of the Twin Paradise apartment complex, they are greeted with an impossible sight. A pristine, suburban neighborhood on a Sunday morning with clear blue skies. The brilliant, golden sun cast its warm golden rays over the neighborhood. Beyond the 2-story houses slope lush green hills. Todesky's yard is a sight. A lawnmower rests there. The grass is trimmed. A cute little windmill in the yard spins in the breeze. It appears like any other house on any street in suburbia, which makes it even more disconcerting. She strolls forward. Suddenly, the digital projection spasms. The glitch causes the image of suburban paradise to vanish for a few seconds. It reveals the true view of reality. A dark, dirty-walled apartment hallway, cramped, with a dim, incandescent light bulb buzzing overhead. That's more like it.
Yeah, it seemed unfathomable. For a moment there. Yeah.
She steps over puddles on the fraying, moldy carpet. She would take the shitty reality over the blissful illusion any day of the week, and twice on Sunday. The scene comforted her, reminding her of her own humble origins. Todesky's apartment rests at the end of the hallway. As she nears, Daria slows her footsteps. Carefully, unfastening the clasp of her standard-issue firearm. A sudden rush of footsteps pound the floor behind her. The woman watches as Chase strode confidently in front of her. Daria sighs.
Typical.
She mumbles under her breath a slew of curses. Chase always does this. Comes in so hot without thinking first, with not so much as calling it in on the radio.
The man is a menace to himself. Maybe this is how he wound up at the wrong end of a barrel twice now.
One day, Chase would surely meet his end from such actions, or the extra burst would earn him captain. Before she can speak, Chase charges at the door. He kicks it with his exosuit, practically knocking it from its hinges. Inside the apartment, Todesky flaps like a fish in his recliner sofa, and the bowl of cereal he eats slips all over his pink and white polka dot pajamas. The TV blares an old episode of an American show, Rockford Files. Before Chase can charge inside, Daria grabs his shoulder.
What the hell was that?
Her partner shrugs. His features curl into a most innocent smile. I'm just making use of the hydropistons.
You always do this.
The resentment bubbles up inside her. She's unsure why she is so angry, but her mind manages to square around it.
You always charge into things without thinking first. It's highly impulsive.
Can we discuss this later? We could have a job to do.
Oh, the one time you want to focus on work is when it's an excuse to get out of actually communicating.
That's not true. We communicate all the time. Thank you very much. We communicated for 2 hours last night because somebody was too angry to fall asleep.
We're having a conversation when we get...
She feels a sneaking suspicion and turns her attention back inside the apartment. But Todesky is gone.
Oh, shit!
Her words barely make it over her lips. Daria cut through the apartment, vaulting over the recliner sofa, feeling Chase right behind her. By the time they reach the man's bedroom, the window is wide open, curtains fluttering in the wind. Daria gets to the window and stares down. Todesky has already gotten to the bottom of the fire escape tube.
Damn it!
Frustration mounts. This isn't her first time sliding down a fire tube, but it never got easier. She clenched her teeth and jumps. Daria shimmies down the chute and lands on the inside of a dumpster. A styrofoam ramen bowl tips over and leaks its leftover liquids down the side of her neck.
I hate fire tubes!
Daria shouts out at the universe. Her line of work is filled with life's indignities. She hops out of the dumpster and looks around the back alley, just in time to see Todesky rounding the corner into daylight. Daria takes off. She doesn't worry if Chase is behind her. For all she cares, she can take down the perp alone. Her finger reaches a side button on the exosuit, and Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time plays. It's not like they work together anyway. She picks up speed and rounds the corner to see the midday crush of civilians walking along the sidewalks. As her exo boots cluck on the concrete, the suit's smart viewer locates Todesky's gate within microseconds. This section of the city is filled with homeless people. They scatter to the corner of the alley. Most of them are addicted to prescribed medications and not your typical heroin addicts.
Fucking candy doctors and lying pharmaceutical companies created this mess.
She leaps over one and the smell of urine causes her to cringe. Her target cuts across the intersection, nearly colliding with an old streetcar, which blares its horn. Daria tears off after him, feeling the power of her suit and her position. She loves the way her exoskeleton pistons pump, the satisfying hiss as she bounds through the streets of Seoul like a gazelle, or better yet, some kind of metallic predator. Her exosuit isn't one of the latest models, not by a stretch. DOSH agents always get the hand-me-downs from the big players like the Bureau of Heritage. or what those social critics call the Bureau of Speech Suppression. Those guys get to play with the latest gadgets. Daria reminds herself she doesn't join to play, and right now, she closes in on her perp. Suddenly, a flash of steel sails across her vision. Chase, who has somehow commandeered an ABECO hoverboard, weaves through traffic like a goddamn competitive skier. The image is distracting. Too much glare makes her take her eyes from Tedeschi for just a nanosecond. By the time she finds him again, it is already too late. In the split second that Daria is distracted, Tedeschi's taken cover behind a parked car and has lined up a clear shot directly at Daria's center mass. This is it. This is how it's going to end for her. An empty life. Part of her regrets not leaving Chase, and the other part regrets not having worked their small differences out. She is caught dead to rights. She flinches, hoping in her last seconds the pain would be swift. Fear courses through her veins like ice water. Tedeschi squeezes the trigger. The pop of the 9mm echoes through the block. Fearing the end, she barely closes her eyes and flinches as she feels the impact. It is enough to knock her back 2 steps. When she opens them up, she isn't dead, but a bullet-sized hole has ripped clean through the ion battery pack on her hip. The micro-circuit connections to her exosuit spark. Her battery fizzles, and she knows it is pointless. Shivering in anger, the sweat rolls into her eyes. The exosuit is nearly 200 kilos, and without the power core, it is like trying to walk with a Stairmaster strapped around her ankles. Her pursuit is over, but not Chase's. As she stands there helplessly, her partner bolts to the target. He speeds like a damn cowboy on a charging Alcatique, dives from the hoverboard and tackles Theodore Tedeschi to the concrete. He swirls behind the man with lightning speed, puts the creep in a half Nelson, and snaps the guy's neck. He drops, the broken body, like a trash bag into a bin. Part of her instantly wants to cheer, but then her mind realizes the truth. It is an American football tackle like the ones he so fell in love with. Before those violent sports were outlawed, in Korea and most of the free world. Daria rolls her eyes. She has complained that Chase watches too many hours on the dark web of outlawed sports. The player's moves fascinated him. He makes the augment on multiple occasions. Outlaw ones need to exist. They are places where the daring would observe new ideas to build into their repertoires for potential use. Playing on the dark side occasionally made us better people, better in our hearts and at our job. Of course, it is bullshit, and they both know it, but now she wouldn't have an argument. Daria sighs, knowing Chase will carry around the apartment with his chest puffed out for the next week at least. Deep inside, she worries this success will motivate him to darker thoughts, like the use of hormonal medications and banned metabolic drugs to enhance his performance, or even worse, implants to increase strength. Moments later, as Tedeschi's guides the corpse on a gurney to the hover ambulance, Detective Daria prepares herself for the inevitable fear of bragging about what her partner is infamous for. He will be quite pleased with himself and, frankly, insufferable. As if on cue, Chase exclaims, for anyone in earshot, "Let the record show that Detective Reddup conducted the first hoverboard dive tackle in department history."
That wasn't a regulated restraint or kill maneuver.
As she speaks, her own attempts to kill the perp, which almost ended her life, cause her to shudder. "You're just mad you never hoverboard dive tackled anyone. What happened to you?"
Do you want to help me out with this thing?
Daria motions to her exosuit. Cautiously, Chase inspects the busted power core. He gives a quick tisk-tisk. Clean hole through the battery pack. Rookie mistake. You should tuck your energy core under your Kevlar vest.
That's against protocol. If it overheats, the core will melt, and you'll have a nasty burn on your chest. If it has a meltdown, you'll die. That's why I put it on my waistband. Like regulation says.
But it leaves you open to shots, rookie. Trust me, I didn't get this far in the department for nothing. But why would you listen to me? It's not like I'm the first person to hoverboard dive tackle. Oh, wait, I am.
Sometimes I worry you have a death wish.
Twisting his lips, Chase says nothing and turns away.
Well, you'll be receiving a demerit for breaking protocol.
Chase takes 2 steps and then calls back to her. And the paperwork, which will take shorter than the broken gear report you'll have to fill out. Just hope you'll be home in time for dinner. Speaking of which, it's Pizza Friday. Let's get this wrapped up and go home, baby. As Daria walks through the bullpen of Dosh's 6th precinct in Seoul, she prepares herself mentally to be chewed out by her superior officer. Chase has disobeyed protocol, and since he is Daria's partner, any misconduct will reflect on them as a team, as well as any punishments the captain hands down. She marches past a sea of desks and officers manning their stations, and quietly slips into the captain's office, hoping nobody sees her. The officers type away on handheld computers, and no one bothers to even address her. The walk seems to last forever, but by the end, Daria is at the captain's door. She sucks in a breath, knocks, and then enters. She closes the door behind her and stands, shoulders back and chin held high, following the training that ordered she always keep her bearing, even in times of fault. Debating whether to announce her presence, she hedges, deciding to just stand waiting to hear his pronouncements. Sipping a cup of chai, Captain Ross stares out the window, which overlooks the city. Red neon lights paints his face. For a moment, Daria only can surmise what is on the captain's mind by looking at the back of his head. Occasionally, the chai cup lifts to his lips. Either way, whatever the captain is about to say, it will be nothing more than what she's already told herself. Nobody is harder on her than herself. The captain pivots and stares at Daria. Tserendorj. His voice fills the room. You've been promoted. Pack your bags. You're going to Atlanta's main precinct as a captain. It takes a moment to realize what the captain has just said. Still, she couldn't hide the bewilderment on her face. Part of her worries, she is being promoted to oblivion. It was an old method. When companies could not readily fire a person, they would offer a promotion to an out-of-the-way position, and the receiver knew this was the final level they would ever reach in the company. More pay, but out of the way with no future.
Sir?
You heard me. They're starving for good cops like yourself in Atlanta, and they've noticed your efforts. Excellent arrest and kill records. Hell, I could eat spaghetti linguine off your behavior reports. And your search history is immaculate. No episodes of deviant interests. You're going to do great in Atlanta.
But that's not Korean.
It's under the UN flag. The group is called Earth Corps, and the American Corporate Council, which runs Atlanta, accepts it. See it as a promotion. You deserve it. Daria's heart sinks. Her mind ponders the word.
Atlanta? The States?
She sees the news coverage about strange phenomenon happening across the country. At times, the out-of-control gun violence makes the place appear like Mogadishu, One day, people took the law into their own hands and killed drug dealers. Gangs and anti-gangs made the streets unsafe for the commoner. Nobody knows what caused it, like some sort of virus infected the populace, and the whole city cracked from it. Some believe it is due to a social media trend. Others blew a conspiracy whistle. But one thing is certain. Everything originated in Atlanta. It is exactly the kind of place to gain experience and rise through the UN police ranks, Daria thinks.
They are sending me to join Earth Corps. God, this is either heaven or hell.
She studies the captain's face and thinks.
I guess my department sees me as somebody else's headache now.
What's the matter? You look shocked. Still confused, Daria offers the only word she can think of.
I thought this was in regard to today's violation of protocol.
What? No. That falls on Chase's record, not yours. Daria is joining Earth Corps. They were new and started as part of a UN counter-terrorism creation, but they would do. Daria's brain cartwheels inside her head. She wants to hit pause on the conversation. A pause hangs between them. You leave at the end of the week. Stop by admin to pick up your ticket and discharge papers. Daria shudders with excitement.
Okay. That's fantastic. I'll tell Chase to come along to pick his up, too.
1 ticket. The captain corrects, scrawling signatures across the paperwork.
What?
There's only 1 ticket. Her eyebrows arched.
What do you mean? There's only 1 ticket. That'd mean...
Her voice sounds more desperate than she dares it to. This is a great promotion. The money would be at least 12% higher. And it feeds into her dreams of one day making commissioner, or at least inspector level. Full agent in the Earth Corps ranks. That means your partner won't be your partner anymore. I'm afraid Detective Retep has reached the rank of terminal sergeant, which disqualifies him from further promotion or transfers. Daria swallowed. Her throat is tight. The captain eases into his chair.
Chase's efforts today was the reason why the perp was brought into custody.
Which he did by blatantly violating department procedures. Times have changed. The department has no use for rogue gunslingers anymore. It just gives us a black eye with the community.
I understand. The Force has taken a somewhat tarnished image over the years, but that's no reason to...
Her voice shakes as her heart feels something important slipping away. The captain takes a sip of chai from the cup on his desk. It's not just the breaches in protocol. How many disciplinary citations has he been issued in the past 6 months? He comes to work hungover, doesn't put in the effort to succeed. Would you even tell us if he was drinking on the job? She chooses not to answer his question, but instead asserts.
He's the most talented member on the Force. Offered his life a few times. He's a hero.
Talent only gets you so far. I admit he's got that in spades, but that only takes you so far. Time and time again, I've watched him squander his talent. As to the hero, well, if he were a bit more cautious in his work, maybe his life might be easier.
Well, I'm not going anywhere without him. He's my partner. We're a team.
The captain wipes his lips with his sleeve and settles back in his chair. Your choice. He pauses a second and softens. Take a day and think it over. Okay, Daria? I wouldn't want you to pass up the biggest opportunity of your career."
Sir.
Daria takes a back step to march out the door. She stops in her tracks. Her hands freezes on the doorknob. And Daria, it's not giving up, admitting when you've outgrown someone. Everyone in the department already knows it. It's time you accepted it too. He's an old dog, and you're new to school. The dog's loyalty is nice, but you'll go to Atlanta and represent us right. Several hours later, Daria doesn't know how to bring up the promotion to Chase, so she keeps quiet in the hours after she returns to their shared apartment on the 161st floor of the Royal Palace complex in the satellite city of Bundang, the same apartment Chase has lived in for 8 years, 2 of which have been spent with Daria. She doesn't want to ruin the mood. After all, it is Friday pizza night and Chase's favorite day of the week. It isn't hard to prevent Chase from noticing her nerves. He is too busy watching a shoot-'em-up action flick on the television and listening to the Smiths' Half a Person. For close to 10 minutes, she stares googly eyes at him. A delivery drone with its fiberglass propellers whirring hovers outside the window, beeping and flashing its arrival lights. Chase leaps off the sofa, throws the window open, and collects the pizza from the mechanical arms of the drone. It takes off with its 4 rotary propellers buzzing through the hazy air. Chase hustles the pizza to the table, leaving Daria to the open window. Before she closes it, Daria gazes at the apartment across from her, row upon row of dimly lit windows. She sees inside the apartments. Nearly every one of them is alone. It is a sad existence. Life has become empty. Daria recalls all the days she gazed outside this window, longing for a day she'd get out of the tiny little apartment in Bundang. How she would look up at the full moon in the sky, just a fuzzy little orb with all the fine dust. She thinks,
One day, I'm going to the big leagues. Atlanta. Now the day was finally here.
Chase pops the cork on a bottle of champagne. It's Friday! Pizza and wine night! Woot! Daria chuckles. After nearly 2 years together, Chase holds the same enthusiasm for their little relationship routines as he ever did. A perfect evening, just the two of them, with pizza and a bottle of red wine. But after 2 years, the simplicity she loved in the beginning irks her. She thinks,
He is content.
and more than anything, that's what she didn't like.
How can he be happy here? Doesn't he want more? To achieve something else?
Chase bites into the slice of pizza like a kid on Christmas. The way his face melts like cheese makes her heart grow soft. She silently reprimanded herself.
Come on. This is your partner. He's a good man.
Computer, Icehouse is electric blue. He walks to her and places his hand around her waist. He draws her tight, and they sway to the song. He lifts her leg and kisses her. As she does so, an equally pressing voice inside her asks, when is she going to tell Chase? She feels like a fraud. As the song ends, he kisses her softly, gets her a slice, puts it on a plate, and hands it to her. Daria thinks,
Sitting in this apartment, eating pizza, watching rank tubers, playing video games. Who am I pretending to be? Atlanta is where I need to be. People there have access to the best the city could offer. Oxygen rooms, karaoke bars, and the credits I will earn? Enough to buy real 3D printed meats. Besides, Daria, you are a career woman. Ever since you were a kid, you wanted to be that boss bitch.
Inside, she knows domesticated life, with all its endearing qualities, might not ever be in the cards for her. Could she have both? Daria suddenly feels two roads stretching out beyond her.
Chase, we need to talk.
Chase pauses, mid-bite into a slice of pizza, as gooey cheese substitute slides off the pizza and flops onto the table. His eyes arch, in the middle, questioningly. Daria spits out the words.
I'm being transferred.
Chase puts the pizza back down onto his plate. Where?
Atlanta.
He chuckles. That is outside our jurisdiction.
They are sending me to Earth Corps.
Chase's face twists. Atlanta? Like the States?
Yes, the States.
You do realize there's a civil war breaking out there, don't you? Daria swirls the wine around the sides of her glass.
We talked about this. You know it's always been a goal of mine to go there.
I mean, of course, eventually. But I didn't think it'd be now.
Eventually. It is today. Captain supports it. Salary is much better and the opportunity.
You know how I feel about America.
I know. You've told me 1,000,000 times. It chews people up. But you've already experienced that. And since we have a plan this time, maybe that won't happen.
Chase shakes his head, as if to jolt the negativity out of it. He put on a brave smile instead. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm happy for you. You know, I don't love the city, but hey, maybe there's some new nooks and crannies I haven't explored. It could be different with you there. I could put in a transfer request first thing Monday. I got a lot of time in. It should be quick.
Wait, Chase. There's more.
What?
The captain said, you've reached the rank of terminal sergeant. You won't be promoted nor transferred.
Chase appears stunned. So, what are you saying? Are you telling me you're going to leave without me?
I was thinking, long distance?
Whatever happened to me and you against the world? Our master plan.
This can be part of that plan.
Daria sees the pain in Chase's eyes. She takes a breath and continues.
We can see each other every vacation. I was thinking we could alternate between who visits. I've already worked it out.
Chase gets up from the table and paces around the room. You know long distance doesn't work out. She reaches out to touch his hand, but he yanks away. She tries to cajole him. Her voice softens.
Look, it's only an hour or two away by Sonic. Small world now, and there are always hollow rooms.
His face wrinkles in disgust. His voice turns snide. It is destined to fail.
With that attitude, of course it will. Look, I've done the thinking.
Her voice firms, and her tone becomes a matter of fact. If this is the end, she leaves with dignity and strength. She hates the idea of dialing up so quickly. Atlanta is miles away. Daria remembers their first date. It took place at a restaurant, decked out in flashing red, blue, and pink neon lights. The ceiling and walls were covered with vibrant colored original paintings of the Exploited and other bands from the last century. The gold-colored, tessellated, tiled floors harbored crossing chrome and metal accents. They picked finger food because they could not afford the overly priced dishes. She had an otsami, which was typically very salty. It was an assorted mix of takoyaki, gyoza, tuna rice crisps, yakitori, tori karaj, and agdashi tofu. He ordered Hakata style tonkatsu, a form of noodle soup topped with marinated chashu pork, shiitake, minma, sesame, scallions, and red pickled ginger. It was drizzled with roasted garlic oil. The cure's pictures of you played in the background, and he asked her to dance. He did not strike her as the type of guy who danced, but when she turned him down, her heart dropped, as if she had made the worst move of her life. She quickly corrected it, and that was when she realized this relationship could be something important for her. Now, she feels sad. A tear rolls down her eye, and she wipes it with her index finger.
If I stay, I'll just resent you.
Resent? Is there nothing worth staying for? Now, she feels angry and desperate. It brings up memories of her childhood running from Seoul to the U.S. She'd lost her parents then and needed to make the trip on her own. 7, alone, afraid, and sick from first the radiation and then from the medication to help her. Nothing in this country for her but a tired aunt. The emotions overwhelm her.
I need...
So I'm holding you back. Daria suddenly feels overwhelmed. It's all a blur. Past fusing with present.
No, I didn't mean it like that.
Well, what did you mean?
Maybe if you applied yourself.
Daria blurts it out with so much force even she is surprised at how harsh it sounds. Maybe this is how it has to die. Mean, painful, and fierce. She instantly hates herself for thinking it. So, you're blaming me now. This is all my fault. Right, because I'm not doing enough at work?
I saw your record when you were a rookie. You had the #1 arrest in the city. You were a hotshot. You could have had the captain's job by now.
Maybe I didn't want it. Maybe there's more important things than a career.
Look, there's just nothing for me here in Seoul.
Daria watches Chase flinch, like he was physically cut. He presses his upper lip tight, holding back tears. But I'm here.
You know, I didn't mean it like that.
No, it's fine. Look, you're right. I'm probably just holding you back, right? We know how this ends. We're going to break up anyway, so might as well do it now.
You don't mean that, Chase. Please.
No, you know what? I hope your career keeps you warm at night. Chase studies the cold pizza on the table. His pizza and wine night is ruined. Chase marches out and slams the door. Crushing heartbreak overwhelms Daria. She cries and feels empty inside. Daria awakes to the sound of Chase stumbling into the apartment. Even from their room, she smells the whiskey and cigarettes. She squints at the clock on the bedside table. It is nearly 4 in the morning.
Where'd you go?
To church. Daria can barely see Chase in the darkness. Daria gets out of bed and pours a glass of expensive water for her boyfriend. As she hands it to him, she says,
Since when did churches sell cheap whiskey?
His face was pale, worn, and unhealthy. The skin dropped off. She thinks,
God, he is self-destructing.
bartenders are more priests than priests these days. They're certainly more helpful when it comes to real-world problems.
So, did you get any epiphanies?
Chase takes Daria by the hand and leads her to the bed. Sitting next to her, he stares into her brown eyes. Although his eyes are bloodshot, she sees they are sincere, but deep worry lines etch his face. I was being an ass today. I'm sorry for what I said. I was being immature. We'll work it out. She raises her hand and caresses his cheek. It is soft, but The hint of stubble lingers.
I'm sorry too. I should have said things in a better way. I shouldn't have just sprung this on you. I know it's a lot to ask, and you were probably overwhelmed.
Before Daria can say more, she is drawn in close by her boyfriend, who kisses her deeply. We can do long distance. His warm tears fall on her neck.
Really? You mean it?
She feels a wave of relief. Maybe half moves like this are best for judging the results of such extreme actions. Absolutely. Everything will be fine. We can do it together. He touches her arm, and suddenly the world feels right and safe. The next day, Daria and Chase catch 2 violators before noon, and then she tells her boss she will take the position. Chase goes with her for emotional support and holds her hand the whole time. HR eyes the couple suspiciously, and briefly, Daria worries they may have infracted a few HR rules. But since nothing is mentioned, she brushes the idea off. Then, she leaves early with Chase to celebrate. The couple enjoys a pleasant meal at a speakeasy-style Raymond bar. They laugh and joke, making long comments about long-distance sex and VR systems. The pleasant day leads to another night of pleasant lovemaking. In the days leading up to the transfer, Daria gets those nervous butterflies in her stomach. She has spent 2 years living in this cramped apartment, and although she always dreams of the day she moves on to better things, the prospect of leaving Chase and the apartment behind is frightening. Moving boxes and discarded trash litter the floor. The plan is to only take what she needs to Atlanta. Everything else will stay with Chase for safekeeping. Billie Holiday's "I'll Be Seeing You" plays softly in the background. She grabs a neon smart pad. She presses a rainbow-colored icon on the touch glass and checks a box for the items she has already collected and packed. The day starts as moving but quickly becomes a spring cleaning event for her, as she tosses several boxes worth of trash out. Chase wanders into the room with a cheese pizza in hand, as Daria puts the smart pad down and drags out a dusty cardboard box, tucked away in the back of the in-wall shelf. Briefly, the dust causes her to cough. She opens it up and sifts through the contents of the old box and whips out a red bra.
Ex-girlfriend?
He places the pizza box on the table. I have no idea where that came from, but yes.
It's like a time capsule to the old Playboy Chase.
Have a little more faith in me, would you? To the Depeche Mode's Policy of Truth, Daria hauls an old laptop out of the box. It's a late 2020s model, something she has only seen in photos. She thinks it might fall apart in her hands right there. A silver rectangular slab. Its weight shocks her.
Lord, can you even imagine how we used to lug these around all day?
Oh yeah, back when book bags were for function. Daria flips open the laptop, plugs the charger into an outlet, and it powers up.
Still holds power. Let's see if this baby works.
Wait, no! Chase clearly jumps over the sofa, trying to stop Daria from turning on the power button. But it is too late. As soon as the screen powers on, she realizes why Chase has nearly flipped over the sofa trying to stop her. One word: Wi-Fi. As soon as the computer connects to the internet, his search history is nearly instantaneously downloaded by the ISP, and then directly into DOS servers. Her heart skips a beat. It only takes a matter of seconds before the algo determines if he is a search history violator. Daria thinks.
Does Chase have something to hide? Did he?
It is hard for her to breathe. His face certainly appears guilty. Time slows, and Daria feels like she takes a breath and has forgotten how to exhale. 3 little bars appear on the Wi-Fi icon. Chase stands back from the laptop, like it radiates some kind of nuclear material, and the way he looks above him, like an incoming air raid is about to strike, terrifies her. A satisfying little alert on her smartphone breaks the silence. Hands shaking, Daria withdraws her phone. It is the department's app, the one that alerts her of new offenders in the vicinity. She scans the digital map on her smartphone screen. A little red dot flashes in the center. Deep inside, she knows what has happened. But her mind rebels. It refuses to deal with the information clearly in front of the both of them.
It says there's a bounty for a new perp.
Don't open it.
Chase? You know, I can't do that.
Can't or won't.
Does it matter at this point? If not me, then someone else.
Please, let it be someone else. His eyes are visibly distressed. She hesitates, but then does her duty. Daria taps the screen and her face falls. It was a profile photo of Chase. 191 infractions. Order. Terminate on sight. Daria's fingers are almost shaking too much to even scroll through the list of offenses. Outside of child porn, it is every single one in the book. In his defense, some of these violations are not even laws at the time of this laptop, say Dee. On the latter, she feels she can forgive them. Early on, she had a similar problem when the anti-birthing crime law passed. Her history of searching for her tubal ligation surgery were flagged, but her lawyers successfully argued they were too old for the state to prosecute. Of course, she would never search for such procedures now. Wait, Daria, look at me. That was not me. Somebody else must have been using my computer. It was all so long ago. Betrayal and self-loathing boiled up inside Daria. How could Chase lie to her after all these years? When they first dated, they read each other's search histories, and while unpleasant, they worked through it. Even her misfortunate mental health history and her birth control searches. But this is more than betrayal.
Huh, that's what they all say.
Daria gazes at her standard issue inside its holster, slung around the dining chair. She glares at Chase. Their eyes lock, then wander to the gun. Honey, don't. Daria thinks.
Classic Chase. Knee-deep in shit. And still thinks he's got power over me.
As Joy Division's New Dawn fade starts, they both dive for the gun at the same time. Daria gets to it first, setting it to stun mode, but not before Chase kicks it clean out of her hands and directly into the faux cheese pizza sitting on the table. Thanks for ruining dinner! Daria dives for the gun, somersaulting through the air, grabbing the pistol and aiming it at Chase, right before he runs out the doorway. She lowers her pistol. Embarrassment flushes through her. How is she going to explain this one to the captain? This is something that even Chase can't talk himself out of. Tears flood down her face.
I guess you never really know a person.
But she felt she does know Chase. But now that is gone, and inside, only emptiness remains. With DOA's, the enemy, playing on her earbuds, Daria spends the rest of the day on the clock, hunting for her boyfriend in all the usual places. She searches his favorite pub, the little live music place on the second floor, the cafe where he sometimes goes to work, the Raymond Speakeasy, the place they fell in love, the movie theater inside the department store at Pangyo, and the river that ran along their neighborhood, where Chase sometimes ran. All empty. Now, she searches the karaoke room, where they had their second date. It is aptly and generically named Coin Norangbang. Her hand runs over the wooden booth as she finishes conversing with the attendant. He assures her nobody matching Chase's description has been here. Before she leaves, Daria can't resist going into that old private booth, the room where they shared many a kiss. The heartbreaking pain causes the brief questioning of her values. She wonders if the mistakes he made are so bad. She hates herself for being so revisionist. He did the crimes. Quickly, she steadies herself. Of course they are, and maybe even worse. Could she ever forgive him? Would he ever forgive her? Certainly not after she kills him. The lacquer-stained room is a small room with shiny blue walls that appear like a candy coating. The television stretches from one side of the wall to the other. The big remote and the fake leather seats, candlelit tables. It is all there, just like that first day they came. They danced to Mariah Carey's We Belong Together. Chase's terrible rendition of the top hits of the Backstreet Boys, Brian McKnight, and Casey and JoJo. Daria visually consumes the room one last time. Her eyes swell with emotion.
No.
She tells herself, blinking away the tears.
Stay cold, Daria.
As Daria exits the building that houses the karaoke room, she is met by the awaiting Captain Ross, who stands outside the open door of his police cruiser. He glares at Daria, hoping for good news. Daria shakes her head, and the captain smacks the roof of his cruiser in frustration. Damn it! I wanted every intersection in a 60-mile radius armed with police officers, and every single drone in the sky. If he's out there, we're going to find him. Let's roll, Tserendorj. You're with me. Inside the cruiser, the captain keeps his eyes scanning the streets outside as if he is searching for Daria's boyfriend around any corner. His fingers tap a steady beat on the steering wheel. I always knew his search history was a little too clean for comfort. This just proves my hunch. Well, at least there were no kiddie porn searches in his history. Then I'd have to kill him myself. Silent. Daria keeps her eyes straight ahead. She feels torn between two worlds. Sure, she feels good news. Daria shakes her head. Yes, just too damn little too clean for comfort. We need to terminate him. Silent. Daria keeps her eyes straight ahead. She feels torn between two worlds. Sure, she felt just in the first place.
Not according to this grandfather clause that I found on page 100.
Tserendorj. Chase's searches violated community guidelines. Period. Daria swallows, but she steadies herself. She has read the rules. She is right.
Sir, there are grounds to say that what we're doing isn't legal.
Legal? We don't deal in legality, Tserendorj. We're not the government. Seoul is a private gated community, owned by Rancor and its citizens. If Chase doesn't want to participate by our rules, then he was free to live somewhere else.
But the corporations own most societies these days anyway. Where would he have went?
That's not our concern. We uphold the laws. If someone wants to change them, they work with the corporate councils. Our concern is making sure that standards are upheld. Or else we will become like Atlanta and those other filth centers of destruction. If we let Chase go, What's to stop anyone from searching whichever terms they want? The captain is so heated over the issue. Daria is worried the man will have a stroke. As if reading her mind, the captain states, I had a daughter. She suicided a few years back after being raped. The bastard. He was searching date rape drugs online for weeks before he found her. Her mind got so messed up, she started hearing voices. Her mother and I tried to get her treatment, but she failed out of several programs. Then we came home one night to find her dead. The bastard should have fried.
I am so sorry to hear. I had no idea of your pain.
It's the past, but I live it every day.
Still, I am sorry.
It's not your fault. I was her father. I should have protected her. It is my failing. I just try to pay it forward for my sins and protect someone else's daughter or son.
Understood. Well, perhaps it shouldn't have been made public in the first place.
Don't live in a dreamland, detective. I can see Chase's rebellious spirit is starting to rub off on you. I don't need to remind you that your recommendation to transfer is contingent upon your successful completion of your duties here. I don't expect anything less than a satisfactory performance. I want Sergeant Retep in custody, and I want you to be the one to bring him in. Daria stumbles into the door of her apartment, trailing in the vapors of disappointment and 6 glasses of whiskey. She drinks fast and hard at the local pub. She doesn't care what time it is, doesn't even bother looking up at the clock. As she shrugs off her leather jacket and tosses it over the computer chair, she feels movement by the kitchen table. She yanks her standard issue from her hip, then drops the weapon when she sees who it is. Chase sits at the dinner table with a bottle of whiskey of his own. She wonders if the high-tech leather jacket he wears is bulletproof. A handgun, his standard issue, rests on the table. He listens to 7 Spanish Angels, playing softly on the radio.
How could I have missed it when I entered my place? Damn. I must be sloshed.
Daria raises her gun sideways, with the muzzle pointing to the ceiling, showing she has no plan to shoot him, and then holstered her weapon.
You were here the whole time.
He raises both his hands to show they are empty, but the spiked leather wristband on the right still appears threatening. With her staring at it, he unstraps it and places it on the table. She thinks. Her heart flutters, and she decides to press him for information and see where the conversation goes.
Can I really kill him?
Would be the last place anybody would think to look. Daria couldn't help but laugh. The stupid genius of Chase never stopped surprising her, but she suppresses those feelings. She remembers her captain's words. She needs to bring him in. The city's spending a lot of resources looking for a little old guy like me. Sit down, sweetheart. Daria takes a seat across from the man she'd been living with for 2 years. What do you want?
I want to break up. I thought that part didn't have to be mentioned.
Frustration turns to exhaustion for her. No, it does, thank you. And let the record show I'm the one who broke up with you. I'm tired of you putting your career over me, Daria. And I've been doing some thinking. And it's time I start loving myself.
You don't do that enough already.
Just because I had a past doesn't mean I lied to you.
Bullshit. All those searches you had been hiding from me. What else was there? Shit. What else weren't you telling me? You played my trust and killed our love.
Look, I know you're upset, but
But nothing. You broke the rules. And more importantly, you lied to me, Chase.
Okay, I lied. I lied about the laptop. I knew I had it. I knew the kinds of searches that were on there, but back in the day, we had no idea that they were collecting all of the information we had. We just used the web naively, thinking we had privacy. And then the codes got updated and our data got sold. And slowly over time, people were just okay with it. Nobody cared, as long as it wasn't them who was getting banned from the community. I mean, you wouldn't let a complete stranger look at your private search history, would you? But that's exactly what we did. Nobody knew what we were doing at the time, what rights we were giving away, all in the name of convenience.
How dare you preach that shit to me? This wasn't about them. This was about us. You lied to me. How can I ever trust you after that? How can I ever believe in you?
Chase sighed. It was a long, slow, and deeply sad sigh.
For that part of it, I am truly sorry. I have no right to preach. I'm just saying the reason why I wanted out was because I stopped believing in the system.
Well, isn't that a new bombshell you dropped? I always thought we were in this together.
We were working towards something.
It hit her like a ton of bricks, but she finally realized that she had gotten attached to him. Not mildly, but deeply. God forbid it. She loved the stupid prick. She would be damned if she told him that now, though. You know, the reason why I didn't advance my further up in the department. Did you ever think that maybe?
So? Because no one is watching, that makes searching about killing people right? You did those things freely. It was your choice to troll others and harass them. It makes it right to...
Daria, I've killed over 100 people for this system, and for what? I guess, on some level, I believe it now, but not completely. Also, it wasn't illegal back then. They were collecting all of this data, and we had no idea what they were going to do with it. Now that they've got everyone by their jugular, they're just finding ways to get people in trouble. Daria scoffs while pressing a small button on her phone.
That's rich. A DOSH officer who doesn't want to think we should look at other people's search histories?
Maybe I am. And so, yes, maybe I let a couple of the quote-unquote bad guys slip away. But I'm not locking up any more civilians. We should never have had access to that data to begin with. What if it was turned on you? Daria grits her teeth. She remembers the search on her that produced the false anti-birthing charges and hates that at least part of her thinks Chase is right. And right now, he is making some kind of point, even if she doesn't want to admit it to herself. But she thinks about all those search terms that Chase has done and finds the anger boiling over again.
I gotta bring you in, Chase. Hell, we both know how this ends.
So, what are you going to do now? You're going to take me in, Tserendorj? Do it, then. The woman smiles, cold and hard.
Too late. I already called it in. DOSH forces should be here any moment.
This is the community that protected her, and she protects it. It turned her into a damn fine cop. Chase flinches like he is stung, but recovers quickly. Well, he leans back in his chair, taking one last look around their little apartment. It isn't much, but they made it work. He pours himself one glass of Scotch whiskey and sloshes it down. Slowly, Chase reaches for the bottle and pours himself a second drink. I guess there's nothing left to do but drink. He glances up slowly. Think this is what I deserve?
Not what is deserved, but what is necessary to keep the social order.
Is that what we are?
Don't know. I think... Remember that shooting we did a few months back? Guy with the perversion for horse porn?
Never felt right, killing a man as we did.
3 shots to the head. Always kept me warm, feeling it was justified by the law. Now I question that.
I always question that myself. It's been hard for me. I don't believe some of the things the job calls for, but I do them. And then I get all caught up in my head like I'm behind a wall. Sometimes, like on pizza night, I'm able to reach out and pretend I'm normal. God, I don't feel that way. I feel like an enforcer of the social order. But the order is sick, you know?
What we do is necessary to keep the social order. Maybe that is all justice has ever been.
Maybe. Chase takes a sip of the whiskey, drains it, then tosses the ice at Daria's face. The remaining drops of liquid sting her eyes. In the moment it takes her to flinch, Chase dives from the table and goes for his own gun. Daria throws a perfectly placed roundhouse kick that knocks Chase's pistol clean out of his hands, sending it skidding across the floor. She draws her pistol and levels it at her ex-boyfriend's chest. Her finger inches closer to the trigger. Chase holds his hands up. What are you going to do, shoot me? Daria orders herself to do it. Take the shot. He lied to her, betrayed her, and now he is on the other side of the law. Daria has every reason to squeeze the trigger, but she can't do it. She still loves his stupid face.
I can't.
Daria drops her weapon as Chase rushes into her open arms. I'm so sorry I hurt you. I love you so much. I never wanted to hurt you. It's why I was so mad when I thought you were leaving. Flushing red, Daria's eyes sting, and she feels the tears rushing down her face. The walls she has spent years building of career, duty, stoicism, now crumble in the face of real emotion. Her life stops making sense, and maybe this is a way back to it, making sense again. Daria resolves to stay with Chase, no matter what. They can hide and find work to protect the larger community, maybe even join the vigilantes trying to bring a different kind of justice to the street. Her mind recoils at the last. She is a cop and fights for law and order. Before she can say anything, the sound of approaching Dosh helicopters rattles the apartment complex. Daria angles her neck out the window, and through a thick fog, she sees a line of soldiers disappearing into the entrance.
They're in the building. Come on. We don't have much time.
We can't escape. They've got the building surrounded. Daria suddenly thinks of an idea.
The rooftop.
Moments later, the hatch to the rooftop entrance flips open. Red neon lights cut through the night's fog. The colloid effect appears like an emulsion of droplets floating in the red and blue neon. Daria and Chase, wearing their department-issued exosuits, emerge onto the top floor. Their exosuit boots bite into the concrete. The sky is clouded. Lightning flashes, but no rain. Scattered light from the stars barely emerges. When they squint, in front of them stretches a sea of apartment complex rooftops. The spaces between buildings only a few feet apart. In the densely packed neighborhood. Behind them, Dosh agents break through the door, taking aim at the newly reconciled couple. Stay where you are. Do not run. Daria flexes her exosuit legs.
You ready?
Chase shakes his head. Not at all. Daria takes off into a full sprint, bounding across the apartment buildings. Her lungs burn, her legs are on fire. But as she looks across at her partner, she realizes she doesn't want to be anywhere else. She'd go anywhere with him. They tear through clothing lines, jump over spaces between buildings, and duck underneath old cable lines running across the tops of buildings, like ropes. Panicked, Daria glances back. The pursuing Dosh agents, who are on their feet, are nowhere to be seen. As they rip through a blanket on a clothing line, Daria's stomach falls and a cold chill rushes through her. In front of them is a sheer drop. The fog heightens the uncertainty, but Daria believes it is a clear 50-foot gap. 52 feet and 5 inches according to her heads-up display, between them and the next building. Daria steadies her nerves.
If we can make this jump, they won't be able to follow us.
She starts again. The fog blocks the visual line of sight, complicating the jump. One slight error could lead them to fall to their death. She licks her lips, pondering. Yeah, but the max jumping distance for these suits is only 50 feet, and the damn fog is messing with my judgment. Are you sure we can do it?
I'm not sure, but I'm willing to take a chance.
And then she adds,
For us.
Chase's eyes swells as he smiles. Daria glances behind her. The Dosh agents, several buildings back, are gaining on them. It is now, or they'd both be caught, or even shot in mid-leap.
We don't have much time.
Daria eyes the distance she needs to clear once again.
If we can get enough of a running start, we can...
Daria feels the impact on her hip. She peers down and sees the battery pack on her hip. A bullet hole rips through it. As her exosuit whines as it powers down, she looks around and sees that Chase fired the shot.
What are you doing?
Chase has a resigned look on his face. I'm the only one with the violations, not you. Once again, Daria finds herself alone. Part of her questions if she would always be. God knows the truth like the sunlight. You can't hide the truth. Not forever.
Is that what the bartender told you? There is nighttime, dude.
Yeah. Hey, maybe I'll get lucky and see you in Atlanta, if I make it.
Chase!
Daria looks back at the Dosh agents, who form a closing line approaching them.
We don't have time for this. Come help me now.
The desperation breaks her voice. We'd be running our entire lives. That's not a life that's meant for you.
What are you talking about? Yes, we can do it. Please.
I'm sorry, kid. Helpless, Daria feels irate. She wants to smack Chase across his face, but deep inside, she knows he is only doing this for her. Somewhere in her head, she believes Chase is right. She knows her time is over, and maybe someday she will make her peace with it. Or maybe it is just the abandonment again and the exhaustion it produces in her. I'm sorry. Chase looks at his girlfriend one last time with pride. You go do big things in Atlanta. Okay, kid? Chase takes off running and jumps off the edge of the rooftop, arching through the air and landing safely on the other side, tumbling into a rooftop garden. Across the space, Daria glances at Chase, who holds up his hand to her and waves goodbye. As he disappears into the foggy night, she turns and makes her way into the building and heads to the ground floor. Outside, she shifts into an alleyway. A shadow appears in the darkness. 2 weeks later, the quadcopter banks to the left and then swoops over the city of Atlanta. Daria grips the controls. Sure, she can let the autopilot handle everything, but being in control of the quadcopter gives her a feeling of pure freedom. The Vigilante Wars break out all across the United States, but nothing compares to Ground Zero. As she surveys the Ground Zero, she sees the carnage breaking out in the streets. On the street below, a rioter hurls a Molotov cocktail at an approaching police vehicle. Daria sees the footage of the Vigilante Wars daily on the news, but nothing compares to being this close to the action. At first, she thinks it is a good thing. people taking the law into their own hands and terminating drug dealers. The drug dealers fight back. It isn't long before a full-blown war rages across the country. Daria looks at her new partner, Private Samantha Santiago. She is fresh out of the academy and greener than a kale smoothie. Daria watches as the rookie fumbles with her battery pack.
You want a pro tip? Tuck your battery pack into your Kevlar vest.
Private Santiago looks at Daria like she is telling her to jump out of the quadcopter. But that's against department protocol. Regulations say battery packs must be worn at the waist belt.
But it leaves you open to shots, rookie.
Are you sure that's okay?
Trust me, kid.
Chase's words echo in her ear.
I didn't get this far in the department for nothing.
Thank you for listening to The Atlanta Vigilante Wars, Case 004, Department of Search History. Script by Joseph and Marisha Cautilli. Based on a short story novella by Joseph Cautilli, Marisha Cautilli, and Peter Kim. Director and producer, Roma Gray. Executive producer credits, Marisha and Joseph Cautilli. Narrated by Joshua Banks and Shauna Lee Carton.